We're here in the Basilica Cistern, 9 meters underground. This was built by the Romans by 7,000 slaves, and it took 3 years to build. This place is incredible. The Basilica Cistern is an underground cistern built by the late Roman Emperor Justinian the Great in Constantinople during the 6th century, the same emperor to build the Aya Sophia. Construction began in 532 AD and only took 3 years to complete. It is estimated that 7,000 slaves worked on the cistern in a hurry to provide water for the palace. When you first arrive, your first question is, why do the columns have so much carving and detail if they're all underground? The answer is because 336 columns were taken from buildings all over the city to speed up the construction process. They are recycled, so while they may have detail, they certainly do not match. The second question remains, why is this called a basilica if it's not a church? It's just because of its architecturally rectilinear layout. The 336 columns were gathered to fill the 453 feet by 212 feet space, which is as large as a football field. The Romans piped water nearly 12 miles from the Belgrade forest to fill the cistern, to then send it directly into the palace. One of the main concerns of the palace was making sure the water was safe from anyone that would try to poison the royal family. They in turn decided to create a rather simple solution for a very complex problem. Add fish. If the fish continued to live, the water was deemed safe. Once Constantinople fell to the Ottoman Empire in 1453, amazingly the Basilica Cistern was completely forgotten. The entrance had collapsed and no one knew it existed. It wasn't until 1545 when it was rediscovered by Dutch researcher P. Gillis. He was there to research the Byzantine remains when he was surprised to see people fishing out of holes in the middle of the city. How bizarre that must have been. When they lowered someone down below, they at first thought it was an underground palace. It must have been quite terrifying to be that first person down there. The Ottomans never ended up using the cistern for palace water. Instead, they used it to water their gardens. It wasn't until years later, when the basilica became famous from Hollywood, that the site was refurbished to become a cultural center. In 1963, Sean Connery starred in James Bond From Russia with Love, which made the site famous. The famous scene is a boat chase through the waters of the cistern. While they depicted the cistern to be directly under the Aya Sophia, in fact it is not. It's catty-corner from it. In the 80s, it was renovated to become a tourist attraction. Since then, other movies have featured the site, including Tom Hanks's Inferno. However, this time they were not permitted to fully access the cistern, so they built a full replica of the site, so Tom Hanks could splash around in the waters and complete all of the scenes. When touring, a few notably famous parts of the cistern include the Weeping Column and the head of Medusa. Like always in historical architecture, there are tons of theories and myths. The Weeping Column is the one decorative column that appears to have dozens of crying Turkish eyes running down its face. It is said the eyes represent the many tears of the slaves who built the cistern. The myths say you can run your thumb around one of the inner eyes of the column to get a wish granted. Our guide was a skeptic and insisted the Romans would have never done anything symbolic to represent the slaves' misery. I think he's right, but either way, I made sure to make a wish. The heads of Medusa are another main attraction. Our guide's story was different from any other that I've read so far. He concluded that it was actually a cruelty of the emperor to include these heads. To make sure the conquered slaves knew their gods meant absolutely nothing, he made them carry these massive heads hundreds of miles, only to place them in the deepest, darkest back corner of the Basilica Cistern, completely upside down. A true insult, letting them know their gods meant nothing. Now that is dark. Today you can tour the cistern easily since they renovated it again in the 90s. They built walkways for visitors, and even during regular times they have concerts underground. If you're in Istanbul, be sure to venture underground and experience this for yourself. If you like this video, please be sure to like and subscribe.